want to design clothes on an iPad, but you don't know how. I'm going to show you exactly how I design pieces like these, step by step, even if you've never done it before. It's the same exact process I've used for over 4 years building my 6-figure clothing brand, Omnee. If you've got ideas but don't know how to bring them to life, this is where you start. My name is Evan. Now let's get started. All right, so first up, the app that we're gonna be using is Procreate. This app does cost money. I think it's $12, and that's just you pay it one time. There's no recurring subscriptions or anything. There are some free alternatives like Sketchbook, Ibis Paint, or Affinity Designer, but I really recommend to use Procreate, and it really helps if you have an Apple Pencil. Definitely will make things a lot easier, but you could get by without one as well. All right guys, here we are in Procreate. So as you can see, you can really make anything in here, like hats, jackets, wallet, backpack, hoodies, pants, literally everything. So first thing we're gonna do is press this plus up here, top right. I typically like to do the square. So now we just have a blank canvas right here. And the first thing that I always like to do is get a reference of whatever I'm going to be creating. So if you wanna make a hoodie, go find a hoodie online that you like, use that so you can trace it in here. Once you find your image, you're gonna click this little wrench icon up here, click add right here, and then click insert a photo. So I just found this baggy hoodie from the internet. Then I'm gonna come up here to the layers, double tap this, 2 fingers, and move the opacity down to about 50%, anywhere between like 40 to 50. Then we're gonna create a new layer, and then come up here to the wrench icon, go to canvas, then click drawing guide on. So now we have this grid pulling up, and then we're gonna click edit drawing guide, then go down here to symmetry. Now we are gonna have a symmetrical drawing. So if I draw anything on this side, it will also be repeated on that side. So with this symmetry on, we can just draw half of this hoodie, and it's just gonna make it perfectly symmetrical instead of having to trace the entire thing. So to undo that, just double tap the screen. So make sure you are on your new layer, you're not drawing on this layer. Okay, now the brush that I like to use, click this up here, this little brush. You can see you have all of these different options here, and I have a couple that I've purchased online. You can buy brushes off of Etsy, but the one we're gonna use is under here in calligraphy, and it's this monoline one right here. So monoline, it's just like a normal line. And then what we can do actually is double tap on this brush here, go to stabilization, and then we're gonna make sure that streamline is turned on about 90%, and then stabilization, I usually turn this up to about 70%. And so pretty much what that does is it makes it so all of our lines are gonna be super clean. Whereas if I turn this off, it just does it wherever we don't have smooth lines anymore. And then over here on the left side, we can change the stroke weight. I think 5 looks pretty good. And now we can just start tracing the outline of this hoodie. All right, so now we have an outline of the hoodie. This is actually a pretty thick outline. I would probably choose like maybe 3 instead of 5 on the stroke weight. Some tips when you're drawing this. So if you use 2 fingers and just pinch, you can zoom in or out. So you can zoom in if you need to fix anything or adding any small details. If you mess something up, like I accidentally draw this and I don't like it, I can double tap and get that away. Or if I draw this line maybe a little bit too far, I can click the eraser tool right here and then just erase that away. And then, so the whole hoodie is symmetrical, but up here, this part is not symmetrical. So what we can do to draw this part in is go up to the layers up here, tap this once, and then click drawing assist off. So now that drawing assist is off, and now we can fill in these non-symmetrical parts right here, just adding that in right there. And that should be the only non-symmetrical part, so we can turn the symmetry back on now. And then we'll add in these last lines here. So now we can toggle this on or off right here. Just uncheck that. All right, so I just redrew this thing just with a little bit smaller stroke weight because this one was looking a bit thick. Thinner line here. Another little tip for you guys is if you want to draw a straight line that's perfectly straight, so let's say you're trying to draw this pocket in here, but your hand's all shaky and you can't draw a straight line. If you just hold it down straight, after a little bit, it'll just go perfectly straight. So now I can drag this anywhere and it's a perfectly straight line. So that's what I did right here. Okay, then the next step is going to be adding stitching to this. I would create a new layer, turn on the drawing assist again. I also like to rename my layers. So I'll just rename this outline, and then this one I will rename stitching. And that just keeps it organized, and it'll make it much easier so you can like edit this after and it's not all blended onto one layer. So now for the stitching, I have a custom stitching brush that I use. So I have this stitch sewing brush that I got off of Etsy. I don't have one that I sell, but you guys can just look it up on Etsy. It was like $3 or something. I'm gonna bring this down a little bit. And now we have the symmetry on as well. So whatever I draw on this side will be repeated on that side. And then we can just add in all of the stitching that we need here. So here's another little tip for you guys. So when you're drawing these lines, if you do that thing like I showed you where you hold it down, and so you have this wobbly line, but then you keep it straight, and then it'll straighten out. So now we have this straight line here. Then we can go up here and click this, where we're editing this line now. It'll bring up these little points, and now I can move this line around. So I can, if I like accidentally drew it down here, I can move it up here exactly to where it needs to be, and just really zoom in, get it perfect. Yeah, move this around so it's perfectly straight and whatnot. So let me undo that, double tap, reverse, and then I'll just do this. Hold it down, have it almost perfectly straight, but not quite. So I can come in here and adjust this, and then come in here and adjust this one. Now it is perfectly straight. All right, so now we have the stitching done. And you guys can be doing this on any garment. You can follow along if you're doing pants, jacket, literally whatever. It's all the same process. So now we have stitching on one layer. We have our outline on the other layer. As you can see, just the stitching here. The next thing we'll add is a fill. So we will duplicate this, slide this to the left, duplicate it. Now with this outline layer, I'm gonna toggle this visibility off on the top layer so we can see this better. What I like to do is take the eraser and just start erasing part of these. You'll see what I'm doing here. So I'm erasing any of the lines to make it so the fill can go in all of these little sections. So now I can drag this over. So I'm just dragging this in the top right down here. Bruh, hold up. Okay, so it should be filling, but it's doing this, filling the entire screen, and that means there's a gap somewhere in the drawing. So I'm just gonna go zoom in, make sure there's not any gaps in this drawing, and just figure out where that gap is. So there's this tiny little gap right here. Just close that up. It's super small, but it's causing the entire screen to fill. So close that. Now this whole outline should be closed, and I can drag this over, and now it just fills this entire thing. All right, so this is why I erased that first. So on the outline, if I didn't erase it first and I pull this down, it's only gonna fill this section of the hoodie, and then I have to drag it to each one and fill it that way. Or if you just erase all of these and get it so it's all the same shape, then it'll just all fill the same thing. All right, so now we have our fill layer right here. Rename this to fill, keep it organized. And now we can change the color of this to whatever we want. So what we can do is click on this and then click select, and then click up here, and we can just change whatever color we want to. And just see what color we like. And then, so another reason this is why it's so good to separate your layers is because now, since the stitching is on its own layer, we can change the color of the stitching too. So I'll just click on this and then click invert. And now we have this nice white contrast stitching. And personal preference, I don't like to add stitching on the hood, but if you wanted to, you can add that. All right guys, so once you guys finish your designs and manufacture them, you're gonna need a website to sell those on, and you can't have a good website without a good domain name. So that is where today's sponsor comes in, .store domains. Now guys, I would not be recommending this if I didn't use it myself and think it was a good product. So what is a domain in the first place? It is the name of your website. Why would you use a .store instead of a regular .com? Well, they did a pretty crazy study that shows using a .store domain can get you up to 87% more traffic to your site and rank 2 times higher on Google. Now those are not small numbers. So that means simply by having a .store domain, you are going to get more people visiting your website and your site is going to rank higher on Google search. Now, how does that actually work? When customers see your website on a .store, they instantly know it's an online store and a place that they can actually buy products. So it's meant for people selling stuff online. And I told you guys I use this, but if that's not enough for you, here's a couple other people who also use it. Cristiano Ronaldo, ISOSpeed, Rihanna, Mr. Beast, and Emirates Airlines. Pretty big names, but the best part is that they gave me a great deal to give to you guys. So you guys can get a .store domain for only 99 cents for an entire year. Less than $1, a full year. Told you guys it was gonna be good. So hit the description to get your guys' .store domain. Now let's get back to this and make this mock-up look realistic. Whoosh, let's go. Okay, now to make this thing look a bit more realistic, this is definitely a solid start and you could really just use this. But to make it even more realistic, what we can do, so in the brushes, if we go down here and then go to airbrush, we can click this soft airbrush here. And then we're gonna click on this fill layer, create a new layer, and then click this, click clipping mask. So now whatever we draw on this layer is gonna be clipped to this layer. So it's not gonna go outside of this at all. And so what we can do is add a little bit of shadow to this. So we have this large airbrush on the side, turn the drawing assist on this as well. So now we can just add a shadow like on the sides right here. You want to do it really light so I'm like barely touching it right now versus if I'm like pressing it down, it's super dark. So this one you have to be really light on the pressure and we'll just get this little shadow in there and this will just help it make it pop a little bit, make it look more 3D. You could add one under here too if you wanted, like under the arm. And so right now this is a bit dark, but then what we can do is come in here, double tap the layer, and then just change the opacity, lower that down to about 30 to 40, depends on what color you have. So 30 looks pretty good. Now this looks a little bit better, a little more realistic. And then to add the ribbing to this, I actually made a custom brush for myself. So I have these ribbing lines right here. And this, we can add this ribbing in there, like that. If you go into the grain, if you click on the brush and go to the grain, this is the source of the brush. And so this is all it is. If you just make this on the screen where you draw this in, you can export it and then save it and then import it into the grain. Just import it as a photo, import this, and then you can have this ribbing. Then I can just draw in the ribbing right here. And so I'm on the wrong layer. Always make sure you're on the right layer. So there we go. All right, so I just added the ribbing on here. It's a little bit dark, so what we can do is change the layer opacity. So I'll bring this one down to about 50%. I'm sure you could find a ribbing brush on Etsy as well. So this is looking pretty damn good. And remember guys, we can change the color. So I can just come up here, choose a color, and then drag it on. But I prefer to do it the way I showed you, where you click on it, click select, and then click this. And make sure you have the color fill selected down here. And then you can just change whatever and see it, you know, actually changing as you're choosing your color. We can go with this dark blue right here. All right, so the next thing that we can add to this would be some texture. So this is another one. We're gonna add a clipping mask and then come up into our brush library. So these are brushes that I have bought off of Etsy again. So I have this fabric brush set here. This was probably like $5 or something. And this, I can just add some texture to this to make it look a bit more realistic. So we just have that clipping mask on there. And now you can see there's a little bit of texture on here. This is like not the correct texture, I just chose one, but so let me find a better texture to add to this. So we are on this clipping mask. This, I'll rename this to texture. And now we have our texture brush pretty big, so I'm just going to brush this on here. Make sure it's even on both sides. So as you can see, now we have this texture on here. I just put this on as black, and what we can do is mess with the layer blending modes. So we can change this to a soft light. So now it blends in a bit better. Or if I wanted it to be lighter, I can always change the opacity of it. Or I can invert it, change it to white. Now we have, lighter, and then we can still change the color if we want to. Make this lighter or darker, whatever we want. And we can even change the color of this texture as well. So a lot of options that you can do. Now, since we have a lighter color here, I'll probably want to make this shadow a little bit less visible. So I'll move this down to like 15%. And now that we have this drawing here, what we can do is add some fading to it. So we're gonna do another new layer with another clipping mask. And we're gonna go back to this soft airbrush right here. Then we're gonna click the white color here. Make sure the brush is pretty big. And I usually like to turn on the drawing assist for this as well. Add this on really light. So we're just adding a little bit of a faded look to it. And this is just gonna be, personal preference, however faded you want it to be. And the nice thing about this is you can just draw it on however you want to. So I just did this fade, in the hood, on the sleeves, and in the center. But I could also choose to do a different one if I wanted to keep that one for later, but then maybe try something else. Just add a new one, add the clipping mask. Maybe I don't want it to be symmetrical, and just kind of add in some random fading around here. So now we just have kind of a more uneven fade. And then if you ever draw it and it's a little bit too faded for your liking, you want it a little bit less faded, you can always just change the opacity of this, lower it down a little bit, increase the effectiveness of that fade. Another thing you can do, if it's looking a little bit too spotty for you, you can come up here to this little magic wand and then click Gaussian blur, and then just move this. See, so at the top I'm making this more or less blurred. So making it more blurred is going to just fade out all of this and make it a little bit more smooth. So maybe we'll go with like 25. So now we have this kind of randomized fade right here, or we can just select this off and go back to this more clean standard fade. Now this is looking pretty damn good, if I might say so myself. From here, if we wanted to add designs to it, we can add, obviously there's multiple types of things we could do. If we wanted to add text to this, we can create a new layer, come up here to the wrench, click add, and then click add text. So maybe I want to add some text to this hoodie. You can also download fonts off of defont.com. If you want some cooler fonts, you can come in here to the font effects, choose a new font. I don't really have any fonts downloaded on here. I got one. And you can change, the size in here, or you can change how far apart the letters are, or you can make it uppercase, lowercase. So we can just add that in there. Maybe I want it to look a little bit more faded so it's not super visible. So I can turn this down, make it a little bit bigger. Maybe I want to add some to the sleeves as well. So what I can do is hold down this and just drag it, and you can move the layers around. So I have this text layer, except I want to put it so it's above this fill, so I can have it as a clipping mask. So now it's clipped onto the hoodie, and now what I can do is move this over and it'll stay inside like I showed you guys. Could do like an all over pattern if I wanted to, just keep duplicating these. So not too bad. Or we just have it on the sleeve maybe, so we can grab this little green guy, rotate that, have this design on the sleeve, and then we can duplicate this, move it over to the right, rotate that. So now we got a little bit of text on here, not too bad. So then if we wanted to add any sort of like custom seams, any like cut and sew panels, shit like that, we can make a new layer, turn on the drawing assist if you want to, or keep it off. So maybe you want to add like some cool panels in here. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller. So we can add in some custom panels. If you wanted to do some sort of cut and sew design like this, just kind of freestyling this. Maybe we want to add something to the hood as well. So now we have like this kind of cut and sew panel design. I'll rename this, just say panels. And then to make this look more realistic, we can add the stitching to it. So now I have my stitching brush. I'll use white for this. Make sure it's turned on drawing assist. We can add it to either side if we want it to be like a top stitch. So we have it top stitched on this side of the panel. Or if we want it the other way, which I'll probably do, is have it like this. So now it's top stitched that way. I'm gonna redraw that. And then I'll do the same thing for these. So we have this kind of like layered panel effect going. This, you might have to redraw it a couple of times just to make sure your lines are straight. It helps if you keep your hand on the iPad so you can like use it to kind of like slide your hand up. Makes it a little bit easier to keep your hand stable. So I'm like literally sliding my hand on the iPad right now just to keep it stable. Because like if I tried to like freehand it, you know, it's hard to like keep it right where it should be. All right, and now we have this custom paneled hoodie design. Is actually not bad. And then from here, remember guys, we can change. Maybe we want to add this fade instead. Maybe we also wanted to add like a dirty wash to it or something. We could make this like a brown color or something. Go back to our airbrush and then just paint on kind of like this dirtied effect. I'm not the biggest fan of this, honestly, but I've seen a lot of people doing it recently, so figured I would show you guys. So we have this kind of dirty effect. We'll want to drag this down so it's clipped. Hold it, drag, clipped, dirty effect. I'll make it a little bit less visible. So I'm gonna turn that off. And so maybe we want it to be a little bit more faded than this, so we can change the opacity of this one. It's actually already at full opacity, so what we can do though is duplicate it. Now you can see it's much more faded. And then maybe we want to change the second one and make that a little bit less faded. And then of course we can come in here as well and change the color. It's pretty sick to like see different colors once you have the entire design drawn out and you have all the stitching in place and shit like that. And then I can just see all these different potential colorways that I might want to create. And then same thing, I can come in here to, I can go up here to my stitching, click select, and then change the color of the stitching. I do have the design stitching on a different layer, but let's go with a red color. See, so this is why you name your layers, because now I'm trying to find this and it's kind of hard to see. And then I can select this, make it red, you know, or maybe I want to make it green or some shit, I don't know. Lots of options, guys. All right, guys, well, there you have it. All the secrets are revealed, so that's exactly how I'd be designing shit like this. This one you can see I got a zipper on there as well. Got that off of Etsy. Like I said, I don't sell brush packs, but just go on Etsy, look up Procreate brushes, look up like stitching fashion brush. They're literally like $3 or something. And yeah, you can literally make anything. The whole process I just showed you, it is exactly the same for any garment. Like I designed this denim bag. This one I also just drew the zippers on myself if you don't want to like buy a brush. And you can also buy some cool brush patterns. So as you guys can see, this one I got like this multi-pattern design. Some crazy shit. It's all the same shit, guys. I hope that was helpful. If it was, smash that fucking like button. Subscribe, comment what you want next. I don't know. Yeah, I hope that was helpful. Let me know what other tutorials you guys want to see next. Check out my brand and shit. Have a blessed day. And check out my other tutorials too. I got hella. Peace and love.